Why? Yep, we're going to start the live with asking a question. Why is my face all red, Ryan?
It doesn't look red to me.
Why am I getting all flushed out?
Maybe you just got a little bit of sun today.
Sure. I would like that. We all need more vitamin D. We need more of that sun. Ooh, we're going to dive into that. That'll be a bit of a spoiler. Why are they trying to block out our sun? What the frick is up with that?
Why would they do that?
Why? Under the hoax of climate change. We all know there are many scientists coming forward actually asking the individuals in the hired scientists with conflicts of interest, right? Mm-hmm. That are saying CO2 carbon is this big issue. And the other scientists bring this information. Okay, if CO2 is the issue, could you tell me how much of our atmosphere accounts for CO2? Do you know the answer? None of them know. None of them know. It's like, wait a sec. So you're willing to turn the world and the economy up on its head to address this issue that you don't even know as to how. So how can you even, without that data, how can you say it's a global issue?
What should it be?
So it's 4% of the atmosphere is CO2. 4%. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so minuscule.
That's pretty small.
I lied. It's 0.04. It's 0.04. It's not even 1% of our atmosphere. And I was confusing it with the human impact. The human impact of that 0.04 is only 3%.
3% of the
0.04%. And I like how one scientist, he brings it forward. It's like stopping the whole world because there's a single, I think he says, grain of like sugar on a bridge. And it's like, we've got to clean the bridge. Halt. No more driving diesel. No more driving. It's literally the definition of insanity.
Well, and especially when you think about things like, I don't know what the number is, but I've heard that it's an overwhelming majority of the CO2 comes out of the ocean anyway.
Yes.
And the reason that it comes out of the ocean is because plants breathe CO2.
Yes.
And without CO2, they can't make oxygen, which is what we breathe. So if you want to lower the CO2, what's that going to do?
It's going to kill life.
It's going to kill
life. We need it. The plant lives need it. Our food, everything. And it's interesting because as you actually look into solar cycles, which there's documented solar cycles, cooling of the sun and heating of the sun, where it's more active with solar flares and it's putting out more temperature. Yep. What else here on this planet impacts our, let's say, temperatures other than the sun? So it's interesting to follow. And when you watch of the warming of this planet and the more impact the sun's having, what trails behind it? The CO2. So as the sun warms, it trails behind. Now they've tried manipulating data and putting the CO2 above as if that's what's causing the heating. No, it's the other way around.
Right.
And then as the solar cycle diminishes, the CO2 diminishes.
It's as if the sun is what dictates life on this planet. And
doesn't that make a lot more sense?
Right. It's almost as if there's a reason for it to do what it does. And there's a way that it controls the life on this place that we live.
Wow. See, we're already diving in it. Let's officially kick this off. That was the wrong button. What? I'm not even used to this new position. Let's do that one more time. Welcome to a muzzled chat. This is embarrassing over here, but it's okay. We got Christmas music. Hope you all had a Merry Christmas. We're looking forward to 2025 here in Arizona on a muzzled chat. Good riddance to 2024. I'm excited for all the new challenges coming our way. And there's really not more important discussion to be had than what me and Ryan here were already. It's like I couldn't hit go live fast enough with all the things Ryan was sharing with what he's seen. And it's important that we have open minds on these topics. The majority of what has been spoon-fed to us in this life, it's just been, we must question it, right? Could it be possible? It's all propaganda. I mean, let's just be honest. The more we look at it, it's healthy just to question everything. And that's kind of been the blessing with the health challenges we've even both experienced, because as we dive in, we can actually, I've come to the conclusion that there's an agenda behind it. It's not just big business. It's not just about money. There's legitimately an agenda behind it. But the beautiful thing is, in a huge sense, is we really go down these roads and challenge ourselves and fulfill the purpose as to why we're here, which is to learn and grow. Then all roads kind of just do lead to God, you know?
Absolutely.
Because, you know, we had a humbling moment there in our pre-chat, is to, like, mankind not even necessarily capable of this level of evil. So it really just shows evil is here, and it's manipulating us in this state and giving us all these lies wrapped in truths and these promises. Undoubtedly, people are coming to the conclusion it's worth selling their soul for mortal gain in this existence. And that's really sad, because it's to everyone's demise.
That's astonishing to me, because if you're a human being that's had whatever life that you've had, and you've come to the conclusion that whatever happens here is the most important thing, or maybe the only thing you believe is ever going to happen to you, I think that it's safe to say that a good number of people these days truly are waking up. Not the woke agenda. They're waking up. Enough information flows now that people have the ability to criticize and question these things that we've been told for our whole lives, that we've trusted because there was information, but it was really hard to get. And we had to trust the entities that we were told to trust. And at that time, years past, I don't think it was as obvious as to why we should be questioning things. Now, as you look back on what's happened in the last 5 years, 10 years, and you begin to realize the level of deception.
It's been generational.
And again, if you're willing to be open-minded, and isn't that the whole thing that, a lot of people on both sides will say, be open-minded. And it's like, really, what does that mean to be open-minded? Does that mean you're willing to challenge and question your own core beliefs, as well as look at the ideas of other people that challenge your own core beliefs? I know that many of my base ideas have really been decimated. I've had to admit and acknowledge to myself that, the things that I believed and put a lot of time in my life into, I need to look at them from a different angle, because most of what I believed was based on things that I was told, that when I look at them with my own eyes and with an open mind and an open heart, I'm finding a different answer to these questions. The questions that are very fundamental to who we are, why we're here, where we are, and what is our purpose for being here, and the capacity that we could possibly have if we're in the right environment. Which maybe that's the reason that we're being bombarded with things that diminish that opportunity.
Ryan, as we've pre-chat, like, I've been thoroughly impressed as to you as a man being able to acknowledge and eat humble pie. It's crazy. I can't even definitively say with the utmost certainty on many things, but what I can hone in on is we've been deceived on so much. We've been lied to about just to incredible lengths,
almost every level.
And it's and it's really hard, because it's like, at the end of the day, we don't want that to be true, right? And
that's the thing we want.
And that's where, even for ourselves, as I reflect back on, let's just say, my awakening and that veil being lifted and understand, it was like, wow, it's everyone's path is different. And when they're ready, and there's different paths to an awakening, and when they're ready, and it could be health related, it could be political related. And that's why we've tried addressing a lot of, like, the corruption and alarming things around us on this platform from many different angles. But that's where, on our previous, last week, we had a phone call I felt like we need to just circle back to the basics on our health. And I do believe the direct attacks, the diminishing of our health is having a direct impact on our abilities, patience, cognitive function to even see or be willing to see more so than to just reject information right as it's coming at you. Maybe take offense, just point the finger because evil's weaponized words to give you a whole slew of names that you could badge that individual with, such as conspiracy theorists, whack hat, like tinfoil. Like, okay, when are they?
Any number of things. And I think that that's one thing that as I've gone through just the beginning of an awakening, because I think that there's so much to uncover. And I think that anybody that honestly looks without their own agenda, not looking with the intent of trying to make what they already believe the truth, looking and saying, okay, what's really going on here? And how can I find information that's coming from a source that does not have an agenda other than to provide people with truth so that we can make informed decisions for the purpose of having the best existence that we can while we are here.
Wow. I would like to state, folks, do not take mine or Ryan's word for anything. To do your own research. It is crucial that you get on free speech platforms. It's crucial you look from all different angles. And as you seek information, evil is the one trying to control. And they would only tell you to do your own research if they fully controlled all the information. Only then would they tell you, go do your own research. There's a reason why they're not saying that. And I believe that's an important way to even vet a source. If they're just trying to, this is how it is, and they're not really bringing the facts, the receipts, the information to back what they're stating, then I would see a lot of red flags there personally. And I'd have to do my own due diligence and look into that. And I would discredit, I would be willing to hear them, anyone.
Sure.
Because the fact of the matter is there's a lot of individuals on any given topic that have done more research than me, and they are coming from a strong, bold stance. And sure, I can respect that, but I'm not taking anyone's word for it, no matter how convicted they are. And that's important.
Absolutely. And to that point, if you think about it, okay, maybe the idea of keeping people that are supposed to be or are touted as being an official and having done a certain amount of research or having an expertise in an agenda or in an area, an arena where they can say, based on a life's worth of unbiased searching and scientific application, this is what we're finding. Yes, you can go to that person. But if they're saying that there's information that needs to be suppressed, there's a reason that all things should be given to people to decide for themselves. If there's a piece of information, whether they say, oh, well, that's false information, or that's not true, or that's, propaganda. Well, how about you let me decide that for myself? And if I hear something, I need to be the one that's responsible. I think it comes down to personal responsibility. Nobody wants to be responsible for their health, for the decisions they make, for the actions that they take, for the lives that are right around them.
Why is that? We brought up some good questions before in the pre-chat, and I believe we've been diminished to a degree that we don't even know where normal function is anymore.
No idea.
And we've lost where normal is. And I don't believe we're anywhere near that. Even seemingly the most functional among us, right? And a lot of people will see function based on numbers in a bank account. So we could say even the most successful among us. No one is immune to the level of attacks that are happening on our neurological, so many of these are directly impacting like the, how do you say it? Pineal gland? Yeah, right there in the brain. And due to a head trauma I experienced many years ago, my spec scan, so I've even had my brain scanned and then the actual activity and whatnot. And of course, there was indicators from the head trauma that, okay, there's some damage and whatnot in areas, but because of that experience, I've looked into a lot of the imagery and everything, and it seems like across the board, we aren't it. You can compare to where this technology first came out, and there's a deterioration. And
really,
yeah, it's just, I don't know. I guess it just shows how important it is that we start taking our health more serious. I really do believe that direct attack is what's impacting us and even forgetting what normal even looks like. And there's a lot of things to just consider and look into, like even in building, what examples do we have as to maybe historically showed maybe a higher functional citizenry or life within us. And I even look structurally what historically exists, from the pyramids to these amazing statues to Capitol buildings to a lot of things that were even destroyed, like right here in the USA. There were all these mega fires that happened in all these cities. I mean, to watch Stu Peters' Old World Order, it's powerful. I'll enjoy going in that one futuristically, but it just really exposes that we've deteriorated even with our building materials, our abilities to hone all those type of skills. I believe we've more so been put into a box as a society, as a people, as individuals, that we're nowhere even near our spiritual selves, like flourishing selves, right? Just being excited.
Absolutely. And I think that really gets to the point that you were saying with the health as the most important thing. If we as individual human beings having I believe, a spiritual as well as a physical experience, if our ability to discern truth from error can be manipulated based on certain aspects of our health, the way that our brain is functioning, the way that the energy flows through our body. And if people that want to control know this, and they know, well, the best way to control people is if they're deceived, and the best way to deceive them is to keep them from being able to discern right from wrong, truth from error themselves. To me, it seems like that would be one of their biggest goals, is to attack the ability to discern truth from error, which means they're going to do everything they can to attack things like the pineal gland, like the heart, the health in general, because we're given these innate abilities to discern truth from error. And when truth is presented, we are given the ability to discern that. And the fact that the things that we're finding now that are being saturated in our entire environment go directly to the point of, and for the purpose of, deteriorating our capacity to make decisions in our own best interest. The idea of informed consent, I don't see how anybody could say that there is even such a thing as informed consent. If that were the case, we would know clearly things like wearing wireless headphones is a terrible thing to do. If anybody had ever told you from Apple that wearing these little earbuds in your ears not only had to connect with a wireless microwave signal to your phone, but also to each other, which means that signal is going directly through your brain at all times.
Yes.
And this is what the effect that could have over an exposed period of time. How many people do you think would still be doing that? But that's nothing that they're ever going to tell you.
No.
They're going to do everything they can to deteriorate, and people invite it. People do it because they don't know. They trust that these entities that are the three-letter FDAs, WHOs, all of these people that we're told have our best interest. I think until people really come to that conclusion in their own being that these people and these entities that say they're on our side and for our best interest, they truly are not.
Right. And that's where understanding the Bible is important to an extent, to even, because to obtain the clarity, the strength, the armor of God to really accept what is taking place in this existence, because it's a hard one. Like, by natural man, I couldn't even imagine living in that type of world. So it's like, why would I even try to go there and understand what's happening? Like, I just don't even have the bandwidth anymore for that. And I don't want to live in a world like that. So I think that's what's keeping a lot of people from even seeking this truth. So it's all combined, it's all connected, it's all crucial. And I get it. Like, it's been cleverly done to where it's preying on our conveniences. Like, once I went wireless, I was just like, good riddance, wires, never again. Fantastic. Yeah. Like, even as a former contractor, that was a dangerous thing to even have. So even for safety, to eliminate that cable. But to your point, as doctors exposed at certain levels, certain frequencies, how it was harmful on cellular levels, and there were direct impacts being correlated to all that, where, wow, could it be possible my migraines are coming from this? So even for myself to just take one little step and cut that out, it gravely helped my migraines. And so now it's tough. I'll be in the gym, I'll see all these people, my heart goes out to them, but I'm jealous to an extent. How are you functioning? This took me out of the game we know of life. And then with Lyme and things like that, like, I have a diminished state to where I believe I'm more susceptible to the other frequencies that are even lower, just from the Wi-Fi's and Bluetooths and cellular. So it's all important. Let's just rewind here. Sure. This is so cool how God's worked. I was going to Envita for a lot of blood work correlating to Lyme. Christina was tapped into Envita and had clients going there. Christina and you are tapped into Centropics products. Yes, we all end up in touch over that. And there's been a great benefit to me that I'd love to talk about Centropics at some point, but it was just cool because through what's happening here, we got the connection to Unchained Wellness Clinic. Through Unchained Wellness Clinic, you ended up doing the AO scan. Yeah. Christina mainly was concerned about some things, if I'm not mistaken, and wanted to go in there. I don't mean to disclose anything, but you go there, and then you actually, for the first time, got a Lyme positive diagnosis.
I did. And it's interesting that being somebody that I feel like I've done some things to try to weed out some of the most damaging kinds of things that people might say, but really still not being able to really put my thumb on why it is that over the last number of years, my ability to form a sentence or to name the item that's sitting in my hand, or to, at one point I had people on a relatively regular basis would say, you're actually a really good speaker. You're an eloquent speaker. You have a good command of language. You have a good vocabulary. I don't feel that anymore. And I feel like it's gone down to a point where it became noticeable to me. And so I'm thinking, okay, why is this changing in me? Is it just that I'm not paying attention, or is something else going on? And in my search for that and some answers to some other issues that I was having, I was led to Unchained Wellness, and we did the AL scan, and I found out that I am Lyme positive, which I wouldn't have guessed that. That's the last thing that I would have ever guessed.
Right.
I've been back east a number of times, and evidently, although it is a back east more common thing, from what I've understood in the small amount that I've known about this, it's ubiquitous. And it's the kind of thing that I think that by telling people, oh, it's only an East Coast thing, or it's only a this, or you don't have to worry about this, or this is not going to harm you. You don't need to worry about this.
Blind.
Everybody. And then they're in this existence that's so far diminished with all of these things, their cognitive disability, their visual impairments, their lung capacity, their stamina, all of these things that they don't realize how diminished they truly are because they have no basis. They have no baseline to compare it to on a contrasting basis. So how do they know? They don't know. Nor did I. And now that I do know, I can look and see the different things in my life that are showing me, yes, this is an aspect of what's happening. And yes, you should do something about this. So now it's like, I can ask this question for myself. What do I do? What should I do? Or I can ask the general question, if I have this and I didn't think I had any exorbitant exposure to what you would get Lyme, as they say, from, what's the likelihood that I'm not an outlier? I'm probably the norm. I'm probably one of the majority of people that are probably burdened with any number of ailments and sicknesses and parasites and infections that they have no idea about.
Right.
In fact, when I got the scan, I was told that I had between 20 and 30 different types of infections, parasites, molds, and funguses. And as I was shocked at that number, the doctor administering the scan said, that's actually really good. Most people are twice that number. And if you told most people that they have between 50 and 60 different kinds of infections, molds, parasites, that are not supposed to be there, because there are certain things that are supposed to be in us and on us, but outside of that, and I don't think that's an accident. I think that a lot of that goes back to, there is an agenda that's there to try to keep people diminished in our mind, in our body, and in our spirit. That way, they can have us as however they would have us.
Some of the proof just up front is two agendas. They wouldn't be fighting tooth and nail. And my experience is kind of this content creator and this crazy wild experiment over this last year. The most censored information I've experienced is regarding our health, is touching on topics like this. They wouldn't be fighting to weaponize words against these individuals, against these doctors, against other scientists that are showing everything that, hey, it's not so much bacteria that's threatening us in these flus and colds and these other things. It's more so parasitical. It's more so poisonous. It's these other toxins, and it's diminishing the body from really doing its thing. It's also even the pharmaceutical and the way that's now been built out. And there's a great blessing to, that's why I do still to this day kind of view the pandemic as a smoking gun for a lot of us. Now, a lot of people, the mass psychosis, the kind of MK Ultra mind tactics, the way they ramped up fear, they used every torture tactic in the book, from shutdowns, isolation, controlling of information, and all those things, demonization,
shame, and everything.
That it really effectively got people kind of just so disconnected to even do so. Is it solely the smoking? No, that's where, just to identify, to find the doctors, to find the sources that will help find the roots of the issues, what is impacting any given individual on a neurological, emotional level, then seeking proper remedy to enhance that or eradicate it and gain more of a let's find collectively where that normal is supposed to be. We're nowhere. I am convinced we are nowhere near that. Because
you're absolutely right.
They've continued, especially here in our society, in our country, they continued to make it norm. It wasn't technically mandated, but it was mandated. It was mandated for generations now to go to the public schools to get all the CDC recommended childhood vaccine schedule,
which you have to. Which means that you're
mandated. There is loopholes, right? But
by and large,
for any parents like, wait, what is he talking about? Just watch Vaxxed 1, Vaxxed 2, Vaxxed 3. We recently covered them on this, and it was just testimony after testimonial. The information, it's just incredibly eye-opening, and it's proper data. And that's the type of information that they're censoring to keep us from acknowledging, because once we acknowledge that aspect, boom, what's the outcome going to be? it'll be generational health from that point on. I imagine naturally our bodies will eradicate a lot of the toxicities as long as it's not continually being pumped into us, but we'll also hone in on things that will help eradicate that more and clearer paths for us all to walk. So it may even be time that our normal might even be capped just due to the exposures, due to the impacts that it's had on our minds and our bodies. There could be scar tissue and issues that it just, but the body's very resilient, and there's no better time than right here, right now. And as we do that, we will be securing futures, health, all those things, and continue generate. That's how we'll properly shift. I mean, ultimately, we're not here to twist anyone's arm. It's up to them. But I do see that with the pandemic scam is it was, and with the distribution of wealth that took place in this mortal existence, with the power and control certain organizations, groups, companies, UN, World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, all the stuff that they gained during all that, they built momentum in such a way that if we don't combat it, like, it's just a guarantee worse things will be coming our way. And you look at the ramping up, there's all these other angles of attack. Let's start diving into some of that. If you were to, like, I mean, out of full transparency, we literally had an over hour long conversation just the other week. And we were trying to even hone in on, well, what are the most crucial things at this point? And we boiled it down to health. Health is crucial. It's very important to keep a finger on the pulse on the political, on the financial systems. Like, there's a lot we need to address, but in order to properly gain the clarity and momentum, we must address our health. And regarding our health, we went over a bunch of things. There's obviously the frequency, there's the food, there's the water, there's the, let's just say everything big pharma, there's or air. Because if you look at a lot of these things, water, we at least can get some pretty decent RO systems and filtrations.
Pretty good.
And then we can carry, it's inconvenient, but I always got my canteen. I always go around with my own filtered water. I don't even get ice cubes anymore from places. Like, it's just not worth it to me. There's chemicals, there's fluoride, proven, we could bring the studies forward. It lowers your IQ, amongst other things. I don't want anyone dumber. That's why I'm stating it. Realize our intention. It's to help us all become the best versions of ourselves. I have no other alternate motive or benefit in stating these things. Quite on the contrary, I'm just painting a bigger target on my back in doing this. And there's kind of insanity. That's where would be nice. Things would be, we'd really be sailing if there was wind in our sails and support behind us. And it would be nice. I would love to continue to be on the front lines, fighting on behalf of others. Now, I know I'm showing up just like you so beautifully put with your articulation things, which, by the way, I need to do less talking and let you talk here. But I love what you said. I've worded it many different ways, but it kind of came to me as you explained that. I'm like, you know what? It's difficult when we can acknowledge, like, we have access. There's all this access in memory, words, function, thoughts, walking. And I jump around a lot. Like, that's kind of jumping around right there in my thought as I'm trying to explain this. But you feel the limitation on access. It's if you really hone in, you can only access, like, where you don't have full access like you usually do. Right?
Absolutely.
And I could see with enough loss of that access, you could even lose the gift of acknowledging that diminished state. It's like, I don't even want to say, and I've worded it before, like, I'm dumber than I actually am. Like, I know, like,
no, really,
it sucks because it's like a handicap. It's like, I know I'm not, like, I'm not this dumb, but I'm really tripping up over words, and it's just a limited access. And luckily, I'm able to report through, really hone in on certain things, and it kind of fluctuates in this path where you can enhance that. And when you obtain that, everything becomes easier, from better sleep, waking up, not just feeling clear, feeling hopeful and excited and energy. And it just feels like you could tackle the world. You're grateful.
Absolutely.
You're grateful now for life.
And your capacity is going to only be equivalent to whatever really, where you are, what frequency, where are you vibrating? People always use that. It's kind of a catchphrase, like, good vibration. But once you begin to understand that we are biomechanical and chemical beings on one level, but at the very base root level, we are electromagnetic. We are light beings, and everything that we are, everything that we do is based on frequency. And I love that these days, these truths are becoming more and more prominent, where now people can hear something like that and know that it's true, because when you say something that's true, it resonates with the person or the people that have the ears to hear it at the time. Like you were saying, there's so many different things coming at people by design, being overwhelmed, not having any idea where to start. And, there are lots and lots of people that have multiple health issues, so much to the point that's the only thing that they focus on in their life. And I don't personally believe that was maybe intended to be the purpose of this existence, you know. And I believe that because mortality is here to challenge us, we are I feel like we're supposed to be okay with knowing that there's going to be challenges. They might be health issues. You might be born with a challenge. You might acquire a challenge later in life. It doesn't mean that we should be free of these things. But what I do believe is that those that are in a place to and desire control over others have, through nefarious means, gained information and knowledge that's not their own. And it's enabling them to manipulate our environment in a way so that the worst things that we could be doing to ourselves, we're doing to ourselves. We're intentionally doing things to ourselves, not knowing what the real effect is. And by all means, I'm not totally guilt-free of this, eating food that I shouldn't. But again, at what point or how do we deduce what we really should feel like, what we really could and should be doing as a level of capacity for thought, for physical exertion, for longevity? We're given this notion that right now in history, we have the longest lifespan. We're the healthiest that we've ever been. Our healthcare is the best that it's ever been in history. And I don't personally subscribe to that. I don't believe that much of anything that we're being told is a true representation of what happened. And I can say that confidently because I look at what's happening now, and I look at the history that's being written of what's happening now, and I know those are not in alignment with one another, which tells me what's happened in the past also is not in alignment with what's happened.
Wow.
So being able to deduce that and say, okay, we've got all these challenges. So many people are overwhelmed with challenges coming from every direction, from you can't escape it.
Yeah.
And when it comes to things like the poison in the water, and you can choose what food you want to eat, you can filter your water, you can choose these things. But when it comes to the air that we breathe, yes, you can filter it in your home, but the notion that at one point it was really a wacky, you are crazy conspiracy theorist if you believe that the government's going to spend a whole bunch of money shooting toxins out of the back of airplanes to pollute the skies for a reason that they say is necessary for our benefit. They care so much about us that the world needs to be protected from us. That this is what they're going to do. This is their solution. They're going to deprive us of the sun. They're going to reflect the sun back out into wherever they think it comes from, because the sun is bad for us, even though it's the source of all life. It's been proven over and over and over that the sun is good for us.
We're light beings.
We are light beings.
Yes.
Everything from the cancer-causing agents that you find in sunscreens.
Yes.
Once you really you can look at each of these pieces individually, and each of them can stand on its own merit of saying, the conspiracy theory, well, it's not theory anymore, that
It's-
sunscreens are bad for you. It's no longer theory
Right.
that chemical trails out of the back of airplanes that are happening on a daily basis, if anybody still can't look up and tell the difference between what a condensation trail is and a chemtrail that spreads out, and it looks like aluminum reflecting sunlight in the air, if you can't grasp and acknowledge that reality that is so undeniably blatant and right in your face all day, almost every single day, like you said, we're not here to force anybody to do anything.
My heart hurts for those that are willing, it just shows how effective the evil tactics have become, that they won't even, a lot of people, be willing to sit through and hear this very message.
Right.
Where we have endless, like, I could sit here and bring up, like I have in times past, just brought all the evidence. Like, if it was conspiracy theory and that actually meant what it's supposed to mean, then how did Tennessee pass legislation banning geoengineering and chemtrail sprays? How is legislation literally under litigation right now in Florida trying to achieve that same thing? Same thing in Kentucky. Why is it not happening in every state and all over the world? Everywhere.
It absolutely should be.
And we could bring up their scientists themselves talking about how cheap this is. Yeah, it's $1 billion movement, but look at the outcomes. Okay. Like, just solely the impact it would have on our health by reflecting the sun. It's going to pay tenfold back if they're colluding with pharmaceutical solutions and band-aids.
Sure.
If also, like, there's so many layers to this as you really peel back the onion. Now, the heavy metals, right? The neurological defects and the way it causes inflammation and suppresses your immune system also feeds into that engine. The simple fact that now bumblebees are becoming extinct. They've made the extinction, or what do they call that? The
endangered species
list.
Absolutely.
And
what's going to happen then? Our entire food supply.
You tell me if it's coincidence that, is it Monsanto?
Monsanto.
Monsanto just created a Frankenstein bee, genetically modified bumblebee that is supposedly immune to aluminum. Tell me that's conspiratorial. And then also aluminum resistant seeds. When aluminum is one of the biggest ingredient. They found 49 different batches now that is being sprayed, chemical compounds that are being sprayed, 49 different. That's, talk about the distribution of wealth. They're continually trying other things to maximize whatever. And this just shows agenda, because you look at the weaponization of words such as conspiracy theory. You go to Google, and everyone that's colluding with the propagandist narrative, they are the misinformationists. They are the propagandists. And when you really peel back the onion, that's the only conclusion to come to. And then you also look at the other angles of attack, that they wouldn't be pushing those narratives and weaponization of words and censoring discussions just like this if there wasn't a bigger, more nefarious agenda.
Right. We would just be completely written off as say or think or do whatever you want. It's irrelevant. If it's irrelevant and it's just nonsense, then who cares? It's irrelevant. The reason that they care is because it's absolutely relevant. It's the most relevant.
Impactful.
It's absolutely exposing them for what they are. And I also have the opinion that there are so many things that we do not even know about yet. That are happening to us, that they've got this, and behind that they've got a plan C and a plan D and a plan E, all the way to A59 or Z59. They have so many things that I'm sure that they it
makes me think of the Barack Hussein Obama film that came out, Leave the World Behind. If we really combated these things to an extent, what's to say they really don't show us at that point how in control they are by shutting off the power grid, by cyber attacks, by things like that, where you look at even natural disasters, supposed natural disasters. New Orleans comes to mind, things of that nature, where we do a pretty good job in those crisis modes, ripping each other apart, right?
Sure.
So they could enact plans just like that, but ultimately we can see where this is leading, and it's taking away our agency. Everything
That's
God is about, God, and even building that relation with God, and fulfilling our purpose while we're here, because 10 out of 10 of us aren't going to make it. We're visiting. This is not our forever home. The spiritual aspect to this existence is far greater and more important than this fleshly. And that, I believe, is the pinnacle of the normal experience that we're meant to have here, is actually gaining understanding in that spiritual sense, and that humbling sense that, oh wow, this is just a moment, right?
Flash in the pan.
Yeah, but you could see with the bread and the circus in the diminished state how men in tights throwing pigskins and whatever, all that is become like this bread and circus, the new Colosseum, like entertainment and luxury to this existence. It's absorbed, like we're living full lives absorbed into these like nonsensical, not like, now there's important things that could come of it. I don't mean to. I think there's holistic engagement with sports and competition, and pushing the body's limits, and there's beautiful things to come of that, but let's get it back to a sport, not entertainment, right? And another manipulating factor.
Well, even just the one small thing you touch on, even that now the NFL is no longer a sporting entity, it's an entertainment.
Yeah,
it's an entertainment company. So, if you're wondering why things look like they do in sports, that's why, because it's not sport anymore. It's just distraction.
We could get it back to a sport if we really hone in and acknowledge. And I like where you were going with the chemtrail, because ultimately, like all these other things, even that, home filtration is so minimal now. I've even noticed recently, as I go around like clean surfaces, the dust particles have even changed. It used to be light and fluffy and soft, and now it's like a crust.
Heavy.
It's a crust. And I see videos of people like using a razor blade on the windshield of their car, which is pretty clean, and it's only been sitting out for a couple days on heavy spraying days, and then they run a magnet and it picks up all these particles. You can right now anywhere, like just run a magnet in here on a driveway. Like as a kid, I remember taking magnets out in the dirt, and you'd be dragging it everywhere, and you'd minorly get things.
A little bit of iron or some other things. But now with
anywhere.
Well, and you look at the list of the substances that are being sprayed in the chemtrails.
Barium,
and
plastics,
plastic,
bacteria,
graphene oxide,
Lyme.
The graphene, Lyme. They usually contain between 50 and sometimes up to 90 different toxic ingredients, which if anybody can give me any kind of explanation of a reason why these things should be everywhere in our environment, like you cannot escape them no matter where you go. You think that's a good idea? Because there are people that think that is a good idea. That's why it's happening. They think it's a good idea because they know what the effect is going to be. The effect is going to be our food is poison. We can't grow our own food because now the soil is saturated with these toxins that only Monsanto has seeds that will grow in it.
I should have showed you all my trees out back. They're all dying.
Yep.
The big pine tree. We just had a big pine out front. You still see his trunk out there. All dying.
I've lived here since 1984. I've seen many summers. I've been out in the wilderness, in the desert, my whole life. And I can tell you that healthy saguaro cactus don't just die and fall over. They don't just rot at the bottom 2 or 3 feet at the bottom of a cactus and rot and fall over. And when you ask why this is happening, they'll say, well, it's a drought. No, cactus, because they're made almost entirely of water, other than the fiber that's in them. They have a lot of water, which means they can go through a number of seasons without getting any water, and they can still live.
Yeah.
And they'll drop off one limb here or one limb there to survive. They don't fall over from the very base.
No,
and now
never.
if you drive around Scottsdale or Phoenix or Mesa and look, and you'll see hundreds of cactus that are just dead and falling over. That's not normal. They'll tell you it's normal, but that's not normal. And those kinds of things, if that's happening to these kinds of things, imagine what it's doing to all of the other wildlife. And I don't know that specific thing that might be caused by an hyper augmentation of electromagnetic frequency that's being jousted at and through us at all times.
That's another one that's just as valid and just as important as the chemtrail.
Absolutely.
Because that is I've experienced, like we were talking in pre-show, and full transparency, folks, I was better functioning on minimal protocols in the wilderness. And as I'm down here in the valley in the city limits, it's getting harder to get on my feet.
Yep.
Like indisputably happening. So it's just like, well, I really don't feel, even though this valley, there's been tons of energy going into the spray, I think it's harder to target specific areas. That's why they're just blanketing. Yes. I truly feel, because I think it's almost a decade now, they're actually finding some of these particles are going to be lingering in the stratosphere.
Yeah.
So it's not even a quick fix naturally.
Yeah.
So there's nowhere you could hide from this in anywhere in the world.
Anywhere. There's nowhere now that's free of it.
Yes.
It used to be, you would think that it's just over the big cities and other places, but there have been multiple people that have done their own study of saying, I'm going to go out into the most remote place that I can find. And they measure the soil there, and it's 100 times the contamination level that it was even 15 or 20 years ago.
I feel that the chemtrail is more easily agreeable and more easily identified, because we're visual creatures and we can actually see that. So when you understand and you see the patents, when you see the scientists talking about what they're doing, when you see the actual legislation that's been passed in certain states and what they're trying to do, you can see that, okay, we weren't brought to the table. This isn't good. Why there's no consent. And then we can actually address that more than the frequency. You can't see that. Yep. That's tough. There's a decent amount of research that needs to go into that, but it is just as important, because the only thing I could hone in on is I'm down here that is different when I'm out there. It's the environment of frequency.
Yep.
And so,
I mean, electromagnetic frequency, electrosmog, I think is going to, in hindsight, is going to be proven to be one of the most detrimental things that mankind has done to themselves. And the fact that people think that the towers right now are running your 5G phone. Your phone is not running at 5G. It's still running at just a little bit over, somewhere between 3 and 4 gigahertz.
Yes.
On occasion, they will up the frequency rate that's coming out of the towers to 5G, but they know what the effects are, and the effects are very detrimental, and they're very obvious, and they are very rampant. They happen right away. It gives you a lot of different things that I'm not going to go into, because it's a really big it's a big hole right now.
I would love to really dive into that conversation.
Absolutely,
with you, Ryan.
because people don't know. I have a friend that worked on cell towers, and he explained to me that in about 2019 and 2020, they started installing a new panel in each of the cell towers that is a whole microchip board that's for augmented power output of some sort. And it says right on it, COVID-19.
Yeah. Yeah. There have been doctors and scientists.
It's a deep hole.
Yes.
But it just goes to show that there are so many different layers of this
layers. Yes.
thing that's being imposed upon us.
Dr. Artis's findings too with the water regarding poisons, venoms even. Same taste, smell, receptors getting knocked out, same symptoms, just like they've been able to reproduce on the frequency side of things. So you combine them all in a populace. I mean, it now now more people would be able to stop because they'll do the research and see that, wow, it was a scamdemic, it was a hoax, it was planned, and the very defective testing they use, the PCR testing and ramping up the cycles, is what perpetuated this whole thing without identifying the actual root of the issue.
Yes.
Any of my friends around me that talks and they bring up their experience with COVID, I have to stop it. I have to be like, wait, let's not perpetuate. This is what's keeping us. By saying you had COVID without being able to define COVID is insanity.
Without knowing it's never been isolated in a lab.
Never. Janet from the Fall of the Cabal did an amazing job with the PCR and a scientist, and they talked about it's essentially you set the markers to basically pull out a unicorn out of the ether, and we would now through that test have all these false positives of unicorns' existence because this is now pulling the hoof and this is pulling the horn and this is now next thing you know you've got
a unicorn.
It's the same thing. It was never isolated on the surface, or so it was all fabricated, but undoubtedly we took this narrative because the white lab coats, because the government, because the health systems, and we started getting worried and ramped up the fear in a very psychological way because we dealt with symptoms and we had people around us dealing with symptoms we weren't really familiar with. It didn't seem like the average. The cold never went anywhere. The flu never went anywhere. And I believe we fabricated and fed into a lot of that fear ourselves with one additional symptom. Oh, I couldn't smell or I couldn't taste.
Right.
And that was essentially it. Now, some people undoubtedly probably experienced a health scare of their life.
Sure.
Right. But so much of that too.
People die.
Yeah, well, we know it was more
from what?
Yeah,
from
it was the hospital protocol, not dying in their beds.
Yeah,
and any abnormal rates in their beds.
Yeah.
It was the hospital protocols, 100%.
Yeah,
remdesivir.
I mean, I feel like a conversation like this, we could get a room full of people that have spent any time at all, looking at things objectively, with an open mind and looking at the amount of information that's out there now. Because I'm not an investigative journalist. I don't spend my days, investigating all of things. But what I do is I take the opportunity to look in places that I know the information does not have an agenda to censor or perpetuate one idea or another. If I'm going to pay attention to somebody, the information that they are going to be most likely putting out is, here's some more information. Here's some more information. Here's some more of what this guy said. Here's some more of what this woman said. Here's what this doctor said. Here's what this scientist says. All of these scientists say this. These other scientists say something else. This doctor says this. This other doctor says something completely different. Give me the opportunity to use my discernment as to who is correct and what is actually true. And don't take any of it out of my ability to ingest. Leave that to me, because like you should probably know by now that if you're a climate scientist, the only way you're getting funding is if your research ends up supporting the idea that climate change is a man-made phenomenon. If you don't support that, you're not going to get any funding, which means you're not going to be a scientist for very long, which is why they say all the scientists agree. Well, it's not true. All the scientists don't agree.
Thousands
just the ones
don't.
Just the ones that are getting paid by people that have an agenda agree. Mm-hmm. And they probably don't even agree. They just say they don't agree. That's why they manipulate their data. And that's why
funding,
hey,
you're on.
That's why Julian Assange is still in trouble.
Right.
Because when you start looking at the amount of information that's being changed, absolutely being lied to try to get people to use the emotion that they have. Most people, and I believe people that are really on the side of man-made climate change, they've been convinced that if you're a good person, and most people are, even probably almost all of these people are good people in their nature, and they want to do what's right for themselves and the planet and the earth and for their families. That's why they're so convicted about this narrative. But what they for whatever reason, haven't ever taken the time to consider is that there is an agenda and someone is manipulating them because they want this behavior to remain a certain way for a certain reason. And if you can't objectively give yourself introspection at a level that's saying, why am I doing and believing and saying and thinking the things that I am, based on what? And have I really looked at what my the opposing viewpoint might tell me? What might they say? Have I really given that a good, thorough investigation? And if you have, and what you believe still lands in that camp, by all means, do that.
100%.
I just don't believe that people are doing their due diligence. Because if they were, they would know the things that we're talking about, and they don't.
Right. Well, it's interesting. Look back, Barack Hussein Obama also literally passed a bill to allow the news, the talking heads, all those organizations he allowed them to lie to we the people. This bill exclusively allows them to spew propaganda. That is a grave weaponization of infiltrating. It's beyond our government. That whole infrastructure has been turned into like a puppet show for more nefarious agendas. And that's where you see what the World Economic Forum's talking about. And it's all exposed. Like, you don't even need to take our word for it when you hear it for themselves. And that goes to show, like, even with the Bill Gates character prior to the pandemic and TED Talks talking about, hey, if we do a really good job through health services and vaccinations, we can lower the population by 10 or 15%. It's like common sense tells you.
As if that's a good idea.
That's
and it's
not
necessary.
Health services. That's murdering. That's mass genocide. 10 or 15%. I mean, it's
of 6 billion or 7 billion.
Shocking that those numbers. And then we haven't even absorbed, because there was, through, let's say, the quarter 2021, it was like mid, third and fourth quarter of that year, there were reports from insurance companies that, you know, had life insurance policies. They reported a 40% increase. 40%. Like
in all cause.
Yes. Yeah. And it was from just 18-year-olds through 49-year-olds is what they were exclusively reporting on. And that's unfathomable. Even for a stint in time, a 10% increase on the mortality rates is a 1 in 200 year event. Like that's epic proportions. A 10%, a 40% is truly unfathomable. Yeah. And they've been manipulating data, you know, obviously from the beginning, even to hype up the COVID. For never throughout history ever was someone ran over by a diesel truck on their motorcycle and it got ruled, oh, you had the flu, so we're going to call this a flu death because he had the flu. He clearly got demolished by the truck. But that 100% happened with COVID. To give manipulation of numbers to heighten. So it shows the propaganda, it shows the agenda, because now the manipulation of data and information, common knowledge. They sweep on the other side after their solution, which we all should have choice over. And let's be honest, we did, right? In this country, luckily, versus like Canada or Australia, where it was horrific, where children were being just stripped from their parents and individuals isolated, actual utilizing camps, which they did erect here in the States. It just really didn't get to that tyrannical stage. They were doing as much as they could. They wanted to go to those lengths.
They would have if they could, but we still have the ability to push back. And that's the difference between this place and everywhere else in the world, that if you're not a 2A advocate, there's a reason why you should be, because the force application for your own interests is what it comes down to. If they could have, they would have, but they knew that they couldn't. Yeah. If there weren't a population that had the ability
kicking off a revolution.
Absolutely. And they tried, and there are a lot of people, you know, that thought it was a good idea in their own mind for good reasons, because they were
Arnold Schwarzenegger coming out, screw your freedom and take the shot. It's like, what? Yeah. So it showed a lot of people's true colors. And whether in that moment, you know, it was either a paycheck that influenced that, or whether it was threats, whether it was he just drank that narrative to a degree that that's what he believed. I don't want to necessarily push against his belief. I just want to provide information and him the opportunity to be like, wow, I can't believe how caught up in this momentum I became. And
Absolutely.
I was deceived. And it would be great to see some big figures like that come around, of even not like I want to see the apology per se. I would just rather see more people come to light of what took place.
Absolutely.
That is the win.
Absolutely.
You know, because then we accumulate more warriors against this deceptive system.
Absolutely. So, and I mean, look, I would love nothing more than to be wrong on every level of every single topic of discussion that we've had today.
Yeah.
But the reality is if what we're talking about and what we're discussing isn't a thing at all, first of all, we wouldn't see what's happening around us. We wouldn't see the all cause of death increased by 800% over the last 3 years. We wouldn't see the mass.
The sudden death label never existed. And now it's sudden death.
And that's just normal.
It's controlling the narrative once again. They don't want it to be fully known. I mean, anyone, you don't need the label. You can see what's causing the sudden death. And it's not just the needle that went in arms.
No.
It's all these other things that they're erecting. I believe that level of consent of even manipulating people to get needle, I do believe that is one of the more impactful, because any other method, it becomes diluted. That is just, that's sheer, they could make it as powerful as they want to, right? And our God-given system luckily is doing a pretty fantastic job with the diluted air, with the diluted water, with the diluted even food. But then again, all those angles they're perfecting where if we continue down this path, we will lose consent entirely. So luckily for the time being, there seems to be a level of choice on water. There seems to be lengths you could do in choice with food. Now they're centralizing. All these corporations and other countries are even buying up our farmland and centralizing it all. So it's making it harder. And if we continue on this path, we more so won't have choice in those areas and categories. But the things we do have, my gosh. So let's play this quick clip on frequency, because it's crucial. Like, the data is out there on some of this information that these amazing individuals have come up with, but you could take this talking point that she's doing right here, and I love it because it parallels the let's say the way RFK is addressing like the childhood vaccine schedule and things of that nature. It's just like, look, we just need the proper data, and they haven't provided that. And we must get that. There is no informed consent without that data. They're not doing the saline peer-reviewed of unvaxxed and vaxxed. In the saline, obviously, if we understand they're peer-reviewed, it's certain batches. So everyone's getting this needle in their arm, right? But one is just a saline, salt mixture, and then the other is the actual vax. And then through that, so there's no even placebos or anything like that, because everyone's getting this. So and they haven't provided any of that data on not a singular shot. So without that cornerstone of information, there's no foundation of truth at all to any of what they've come forward on at all. We need that cornerstone. So same thing.
Yeah, it's crucial
to consider with the frequency, and then also the air. But the data that we do have is alarming. So let's play this.
What does this do to pilots? What does this do to firefighters? We already have a submission to the FCC from Susan Foster about firefighters that were unable to function in the line of duty. This is from 2013, after exposure to a cell tower that was put up near their station, and They also have two-way communication devices that they wear. So we have to measure these exposures.
Yes.
That is the start, and not go ahead and roll out a whole bunch of Internet of Things with more devices that we're not even measuring what we're exposed to now. So
That
what does
right
this do to
there.
pilots?
I can't wait. Oh, I gotta put this back on echo. Do I? I don't know. That's actually for. Yeah, we should be good on the volumes. But that's so powerful to just obtain the information of our current environments, right? And that's the same with the air. And a lot of people are coming forward with the information how aluminum is diminishing the pH in soils, where we have to more so resort to obtaining crop like these genetically modified seeds, which we also know has been correlated to very like cancer and very harmful impacts to our neurological or spiritual, this whole experience.
Yeah.
It's putting us right where certain individuals want us. And it's like, how could people even be so evil? But you know, it's beautiful with this challenge. Like ultimately, we're either going to get enough people over time taking this more serious. I just pray and hope that our state doesn't become so diminished that we no longer can make these connections, because the reality of it is there's no easier time to combat this than right here now.
Yeah, it's
today. It's
nothing's
only
ever
get
standing
harder.
still. So it's either getting better or it's getting worse.
Right.
And I honestly feel like it's getting better because more people are actually taking the time to step back out of their own life and say, okay, what am I seeing around me? What am I feeling? What do I truly believe is happening? And when you can see that things like the amount of deceit that's happening within the government, that's coming to light, when we can see the things like what happened to Epstein, when you see all these things that now become painfully clear, it becomes painfully obvious that there is an agenda. There are people that have a reason to want to control. They don't have our best interest at heart. And once I think I made that point earlier, I feel like once people are really willing to address the scary reality that the people at the helm do not have our best interest at heart. The reason that they want to control us is so that they can use us for the reasons that they are using us currently, for energy, as workers, everything that's really not at all why we're meant to be here. We're meant to be here to have an experience, to grow, to go through challenges, not to spend our entire life worrying about how am I going to find something clean to eat.
Yeah.
Which I know that that's on a world level. That's definitely a very big problem for a lot of people, but you know what? It shouldn't be.
Right.
That should not be. There is so much abundance in this world. Everybody should be living abundantly. Everybody should be healthy. Everybody should be living a life of abundance, down to the last person in every continent, every nationality, everybody should be healthy, but they're not. And I don't know what do we do to get there? I think that we need to look at something that we can do about something. Can we agree that there's an issue? Can we all agree there's an issue? What is the issue? Let's agree on that and then say, what are we going to do about it?
Wow. I love that. And I think we kind of honed in on, once again, I wish this wasn't the case, but then again, it is. And there's a beauty to coming to terms with the way things are. And what other choice do we really have? Right. And through challenge, it's so crazy looking at my own, I like to stay away from the word evolution, but my own evolution in a sense of growing, maturing, absorbing knowledge. Yeah. So evolving and like coming into the reason why I'm here in a sense where was I with that before? Where, I had a point where when I didn't see evolving, couldn't see. Lyme brain, folks. Don't get it.
Thing.
It sucks. It's a thing. I really had a clean point there, and it was simplistic.
Well, it'll come to you.
It's just right over, or it doesn't. But it's okay. All right, just to move past that.
Yeah.
And get to the point you were saying. I don't know, and I think we just both came to the conclusion that there's not a better thing to address right now in my eyes. You guys chime in, drop comments if you feel there's any better direction that you feel to go down. But I don't, with the momentum happening in Florida and all these other states, that chemtrails are the pinnacle to create the momentum we really need to get to the roots of a lot of these issues, because we're not immune to that and we can't fully hide from that. And the fact, all it's going to take is legislation being passed. It's just signatures on papers to ban it everywhere without more going into infrastructure. There's a couple extra layers to cleaning water. There's more layers to eliminating chemicals and dyes and all these things in our food.
This is literally an enormous expenditure that we're paying for, that's to our own demise.
Yes.
So don't you think we can all agree that this is not a good thing? I don't have any knowledge of any scientists that's come up with a statement that says this is what we're doing, this is what it is, this is why we're doing it, and this is how it's going to help everybody. Okay, so if they can't do that, and they haven't done that, and they've said that it's a crock of malarkey the whole time, that means they're hiding something. If you look at what's in it and you look at what the effects of that are, then you'll see that it's absolutely a horrible thing. And we should all agree on that. And that's irrefutable and undeniable. You can't look at that and say there's a benefit to that. That being said, finding enough people that are willing to say, I don't often sign petitions. Very, very frequently do I sign a petition, unless it's something that I'm informed on and I believe in the cause. Most of the time, people that are for the things that I believe are kind of smashed, and nobody wants to try to support those things because they're not what the prevailing world opinion would agree with. But I think that now that there is legislation, that it is out there, that other jurisdictions are not only acknowledging, but they're willing to say, this is a bad thing, we need to stop it. You're going to stop it here.
Yes.
How can we build on this momentum and find people in our area? Because I think that's the only way that we're really going to make any change. We can't change what's happening in India. We can't change what's happening in Alaska right now. We can change what's happening right here.
Yes.
In our town, if we get enough people to acknowledge the reality that we're being poisoned daily, acknowledge it, say, I understand this. I'm willing to stand up as someone that acknowledges this atrocity that's happening on a daily basis. I'm willing to stand up with this group of people that acknowledges this atrocity happening. We're not okay with this.
Yeah. There's a few different pathways to be had here. Either we need more men, women, any warriors willing to stop what they're currently spending their time in. They got to stop and engage in the front lines and figuring out how to shut this down, state by state by state. So it's either more individuals need to full-time this, or we need more support from the masses. So it's either a smaller percentage of real devout warriors or a larger percentage of the populace supporting groups and individuals willing to tackle this.
Even just being willing to acknowledge.
If let's just say this platform, just to pave a way, hypothetically, to address these issues, I end up in a place, let's say financial abundance, to where we can hire a tech team, build out a web page. Because I think a lot of like petitions can have impact, but they more so end up flat.
Yeah.
They really don't. So it's kind of, I envision building out a web page that has all the state officials listed, the emails, the phone numbers, and then pre-crafted letters you could either print and mail in, or emails that you could send out. But what it's accumulating is the data, because undoubtedly there's a lot of people, I feel, on individual levels in individual states that are sending their state officials all this stuff, but they're not accountable. They're not being held accountable, and we don't have the data collection as to everyone doing this, and that's where it's landing drop. Unlike, these woke corporations, we impact their bottom line. Our government takes from us, these state officials take from us no matter what, and without enough of us being engaged and not allowing them to go out in public without being addressed, like, hey, they're poisoning us and our children, like, shame on you, don't show your face in public till, and they feel that pressure. Then they're gonna appease their slave masters, the orders from coming above, versus we the people
that they're supposed to serve.
Exactly. So if we got loud to where, like, we impacted their lives in a sense to that degree, by no means am I saying threats or anything. It's just literally airing our grievances, having our grievances. Like, why are you not addressing our grievances? This is an issue, and it's not like you're not immune to it. Neither are your children, unless, let's say, from above, they're giving them the solutions that they clearly have to maintain this function, because they clearly have things we don't. I've heard talk of med beds and these frequency miracle machines that just eradicate within a single session, like the everything. Everything. So it's like there's a whole bunch of avenues we could go down. We just need support and funding.
Absolutely.
And when there's calls to action that people do it, if it's through that webpage, I think that's the single, because at the point we accumulate that data, who's to say futuristically, when we have thousands or hundreds of thousands, maybe millions across the nation, that we could start, who's to say law firms that wouldn't be so attractive to them that they'd be willing to take this pro bono? So we might not even need funds to unleash the legal hounds, because how are the state officials? They're not immune when they're not listening to we the people. Yet we gathered all that evidence. Like, that's treasonous behavior. Like that's imprison. We could imprison them over that, not just quickly eject them from those chairs and introduce someone that's going to listen to us. But there's also other avenues. So it's more so getting the message out and building the momentum, because we could also, I view our sheriffs kind of a last line of defense, that they swore oath to our Constitution and we the people independently. So if we start ramping up the pressures through them, that might even be a quicker way to address the state officials, where, hey, we provide enough evidence of this poisoning, and they swore to protect the people, and it's happening right there in their jurisdiction. Like, if you don't do this, then we're going to unseat you, and maybe you could see that will imprisonment, right? And fulfilling the oath they already swore. And I know a lot of sheriffs that took upon those positions, yes, they have some legal counsel trying to keep them in these positions and things like so it could be kind of going against that. But when we show up in mass, in a way, they have no choice, and that might, I think, that's a less corrupted route. Those men, I believe, swearing those oaths actually more so want to uphold them. And there was a vast majority of them during the COVID tyranny, and with the mandates, illegal orders, they stood against. So that gives me hope that could very well be an effective avenue. So above all, we just got to get this message out there. And it's not like me and Ryan here are going to figure out all the solutions. It's a communal effort. So any input you have, solutions you may have, drop it in the comments, because I ultimately do believe, if, let's just say hypothetically, we knocked out the chemtrails, fast forward, where's that going to lead? Ideally, I truly do believe it will lead to more function, more health, which will have more bandwidth, we'll have more energy to address these. I think it will be easier for people to even now hear it, because, like, a lot of people unknowingly, like, prior to your Lyme diagnosis, and they have other ailments that are impacting. They're walking around. And this is what I think is hindering our ability to even communicate, where walls go up, arguments erupt, yes, there's a level of mass psychosis and polarization and weaponization of words and all the indoctrinations taking place. It's keeping us divided in a sense. But I believe when it's a topic like this, it's more so the inflammation within their body. They don't have the patience.
Right.
They don't have the bandwidth to even absorb this. It's just easier to laugh, point the finger, and shut it down.
Yep.
Because but if they really knew what was happening and what's keeping them from that information, so let's just eliminate it and gift that to them. And with the ability, now I believe they'll be able to absorb this. What that will mean futuristically, more people will get engaged in all of this. We could take that momentum. Now, the next easiest step might be the water.
Right.
And then from there, it might be gaining the information like that scientist and doctor was speaking out on, just accumulating the data regarding our frequencies without prior to rolling out a whole internet of things, meaning all the just more and more of this frequency we can't even see that is clearly diminishing us, because I could speak of it, spending the whole summer in the woods.
Right.
And yes, making some mistakes up there and eating some crap and whatnot, but ultimately what I experienced coming back down here, and it's ongoing and it's continually getting harder. So I want to be more directly impacting to solutions at this point. And that's where I feel with our conversation and then continuing even now, we could in fact be the solution to this issue, even if it's just one issue, and then some other more effective organization picks up the slack from there. Fantastic. But we could help get that ball rolling, address that one singular issue, and hopefully gain the momentum to start addressing all these other angles
issues
of attack.
Yeah, I think that's a really good, just overall synopsis of what might happen. What could we do? What is the possibility? We've got to create a possibility. The possibility is we could make it so that enough people understand fully what's happening, that informed non-consent, now that they're informed, they do not consent, and they're going to make sure that the people that are supposed to be protecting them from things being imposed on them without their consent, they're going to do something. And like you're saying, I think that it's most important that we get support from people, that we get people that are willing to say, hey, yeah, I'm against this. I'm willing to acknowledge this. I'm willing to put some kind of support towards seeing this go away, because what's the alternative? I don't want Alzheimer's at 52 next year. I don't want any of the other things that are coming from the oversaturation of aluminum. We know, I think anybody that's heard anything about Alzheimer's has heard horrific. The correlation between aluminum being ingested and Alzheimer's. Well, why then are they pumping the air full of aluminum every single day?
Every day.
Go look outside. There's going to be aluminum in the air. You can tell because it looks blue silver through sunlight. It's aluminum, and you're breathing it, and it's landing in your water, and it's everywhere around you. And if you're not worried about that, then, that's fine. But if you have any common sense and you understand that ingesting metals and heavy metals and other things is an unnatural, not beneficial thing, I think that this is something that we should be able to get everybody behind.
Yeah.
I think on every side of the spectrum, especially people that might be on a more liberal leaning kind of ideology.
Yeah.
Isn't that the whole thing? Pollution. If pollution is terrible and it's bad, which I agree, I want the place that we live in, I want to be as clean and pristine and healthy as possible. I don't think that involves spewing man-made items and substances that are totally unnatural, that are totally bad for us in every way possible. Why would we saturate ourselves with that?
Right. I mean, this is the same sky. After all this takes place, water vapor does not linger, disperse, and white out the entire sky. You can see the progression in this singular image projecting multiple images. It's just all there. We're going to believe their lie, their propaganda versus what our eyes are telling us. That picture in and of itself really does explain it. Ryan, I'm so grateful for the research, the connections, everything you've done. What do you suppose has brought you to like this great humbling and questioning? I mean, I'm sure it has to do with upbringing, God, a bunch of things, but I'd imagine it's also just the health diagnoses, challenges you've even experienced, and you obviously have realized, like a lot of people haven't realized, like how crucial it is to maintain our mortal health, to have the more so experience the normal, to obtain that normal, what, like, find that, get that back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been told that 80 is what the expected lifespan should be. I don't subscribe to that. My grandmother just turned 101 years old, and she is still as healthy as you could imagine, but she also grew a lot of her own food and, did a lot of things. The point being, I think that we all have a lot more life to live. And I don't think that just throwing your hands up and saying, well, it's just what it is, and that's just today's world. I disagree with that. I think that science and technology has a lot of good things that it can offer us. Yeah. I think that there's a lot of things that we can, acquire from these beneficial things. But once you start seeing things like your own health deteriorating, you start to be given diagnosis of ailments that you shouldn't have, that for all intents and purposes, we know now were created as a weapon, a bioweapon, to be weaponized against us. And if people can really internalize that there are powers that be that have very bad intentions towards you, the worst intentions. If they had it their way, you wouldn't be here. And if you're okay with that, keep doing what you're doing. If you want to change something about that, or at least if you want to disagree and say, I don't agree that we should all just lay down, take whatever they say we should take as normal, and breathe whatever air they say we should be breathing. Yeah. I believe the Creator created this place in a certain way for a specific reason, and they're trying to change that because they're on a different team. And frankly, I really do think it's going to come down to, I think it's already come down to, you kind of have to choose a team. Yeah. You really have to. And I know that a lot of people might not necessarily subscribe to that very binary thing. And that's another thing that they're trying to do, is erase the reality of right and wrong and good and bad. Mm-hmm. And there are degrees of good and bad, but one is still good and one is still bad. Yeah. And I think it's important that people recognize that now is the time to say, I'm not just going to sit and wait for everybody else to do something and see how it turns out. Because I can tell you, if everybody sits there and does nothing, it's going to turn out like the things that we've seen happen in the last few years.
And, at the end of the day, I'm not here to twist anyone's arm. If that's the path we're going to go down, that's the path we're going to go down. Sure. Right. And it does break my heart, because with what I felt, like, but then again, there's a part of it where you just entirely let go, trust in God, and do what you can. Absolutely. Like, it becomes kind of irrelevant in fighting this fight, whether that becomes the outcome or this becomes the outcome. A lot of it, and that's where I really want to hone in on, whether we right the ship or not is irrelevant, because we know what biblically is described. And that's where I believe when evil becomes effective, I feel when it becomes effective enough, like this seems to be the direction it's on, that it imposes and infringes upon our agency on a mass enough scale, on an impactful enough scale. That's where, okay, time for the second coming, right? Yeah. Like, sure, it is depicted in the Bible. So that is not a day to be feared, especially for individuals that find out what this is all about. It's a day to be, in my eyes, celebrated. Yeah, absolutely. Like, proper judgment, and not in even the ways I feel we kind of understand with our limited capacity and words, but we end up where we're supposed to be at that point, whatever we achieve. And that's why I feel, in showing up in this battle, so to speak, the spiritual war playing out, there's amazing gifts, amazing growth to be had. So I get a lot of people want to hone in on the relation. That's important, understand biblically, but there is a role, a responsibility. Like one of the commandments was to love thy neighbor as you love yourself. We're all falling short on that. 100%. And the more we live a life like that, and this encompasses all of that, like we can achieve that more. So we'll get blessings, gifts, enhancement, clarity. We'll fulfill our purpose. We'll live life of meaning. But it also coincides with the utopia we all seek in this existence. So there's great gifts. So I just want people to consider doing what you could do. And I'm just grateful for this chat because it does become very clarifying on, I believe, chemtrails kind of being step number one. I think, I don't know what else would be more easily addressed than that could potentially lead to vast amount of health breakthrough and stopping one of the angles. It's just diminishing us, tanking us. Because you see the illness ramping up within the youth, life expectancy dropping, mortality, all these chronic things. So,
well, and honestly, I think that, and I don't know a lot about it right now, but I feel very strongly that they're going to find in hindsight that there is an enormous correlation between the use of frequencies and the substances that are being saturated into the air. When you combine those two things, metals and other different things that react to frequencies in different ways, and now they're inside of us.
It's like a two-phase.
There's reasons why they're doing it. They know what they're doing and why they're doing it. And it is about it's about taking our agency. It's about taking the ability even to think for ourselves.
Right.
They might put you in jail and take your freedom, but once they can take your agency and they can change your ability to think clearly, your ability to deduce truth from error, then they've won. That's what the battle has always been. That's what the battle for spiritual war has always been. It's always been about agency, the ability to choose.
The battle in heaven prior to this earth and Adam and Eve.
Absolutely.
That's what it was about.
It still is. It always has been. And, and ultimately, it's not going to be up to us. It's not because we do anything. It's going to be because the Creator decides that it's going to go down a certain way. But that doesn't excuse us from the responsibility to do our due diligence, to do what we can for ourselves. With the amount of everything that has to be done is this. And we might do this much and he's going to do the rest. But that doesn't mean that we don't still need to do our part. And if we're not even willing to do our part, why should we expect anybody to do anything else if we're not even willing to do what we can and should do?
Wow.
I think that that's important for everybody to really think about a little bit. I know it's important for me to think about.
That is so important. I should have been writing that down. That was noteworthy. I'm going to be playing this back. I appreciate you, Ryan. And folks, just out of transparency, let me honor this man because he's been helping me with my battle with Lyme, and he gifted me it kind of on loan. Okay. He says it's mine, but no, like he gifted me one of these frequency mats. And it's interesting as I reflect on my usage and my personal story with this, I didn't have like a specific breakthrough with it, but as I'm like sitting here being mindful and trying to process, that's what's really difficult being human, even shifting diets to be aware as to how you feel, how you're functioning as you shift to hone in and acknowledge what's really agreeable to your system and leads to health and function and what isn't. Like, it's really hard to hone in on that because for some people, they'll notice the weight loss right away or whatnot, or it's just so prolonged by the time you're seeing the impact, you lose the connection as to what is most beneficial.
Sure.
And I feel that's been my experience with the mat that you've let me use to this point, which I'm so grateful. But even using it last night, like I was telling you before the show, I was restless. it was becoming super late, almost 2 a.m. And I was just like, did I run the mat on the sleep mode yet? And I don't believe I did. So I put it on sleep mode. And folks, before it only runs 15-minute cycles. And before it even ended, I was almost out. I thought I was going to be up for another hour, 2 hours.
Sure.
And I started reading and doing other things. And finally at that point, like, just able to set down the book, turn off the lights entirely. And I know this has had more of an impact, like that diet shift I was talking about, that then I can put my finger on. And it seems like, well, I might be sending this mat in for a maintenance. And if that's the case, shoot, I may be able to more quickly acknowledge the benefits I was having with it by not having it, more so than having it. So I'll keep you posted on all that, but this is what brought us all together. So I want to plug this product, and if we'll consult with Christina and see if maybe she wants a plug, because she's so knowledgeable, and you are too, over this product.
She is great.
If anyone has questions and wants to speak out on it, this product helps combat a lot of the frequencies, get us back into the zone, like annihilating inflammation, boosting the body energetically in the morning, and then also calming it and getting it into a better sleep mode.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's capable of all of that. And then there's other products that Christina's tapped into that help combat the negative frequencies that kind of create a shield in a way, because it's just emitting frequencies that combat that. So your zone, your habitat, even being down here, whether it's your home environment or even a to-go device, helps combat, you know, if you're in a heavy office with signals everywhere, cubicles, things of that nature, traveling, and the planes and everyone, their devices packed into that little tube. It's there's something to this.
Yeah, there really is. And Centropics is a great company. We came across them in our search to eliminate what we started finding is the effects of overexposure to electromagnetism, the EMF smog, as they refer to it now, being one of the biggest pollutants in our environment. And it's just getting worse. And once you come to understand the effects of an oversaturation of electromagnetic frequency at the higher frequency rates, 5 gigahertz up to 60,000 gigahertz, that they're going to be imposing on the population in the coming years. Once you recognize that, you know, our bodies want to heal, but they can do it best when each of the atoms in every one of the 200 cell types that we have has the proper energy within that. If it drops below a certain energy level, now that cell is going to become susceptible to disease, dis-ease. All other maladies are only capable of happening within a cell that has an atomic level below 80 microtesla. Once you're above 80 microtesla within the atomic level, your cells are essentially impervious to all types of issues. So being able to re-energize our bodies with what's called PEMF, or now actually PEMA, is pulse electromagnetic molecular activation. It's a long name, but it's an older technology, PEMF, that's been around for a number of years. But now Centropics, and the founder of Centropics is kind of the godfather or the Yoda of PEMF technology. Dr. Kafka, Wolfgang Kafka, he had a really big breakthrough about 5 years ago and has now created a new genre of PEMF technology, which is the PEMA. It's the most sophisticated, effective, and elegant PEMA technology in the world today. You can't find a more effective PEMA technology anywhere in the world. And they really do a good job at reinforcing the body's ability to heal itself and be back in homeostasis, where now the cells are doing what they're designed to do.
You know, one of the things that really jumped out of me regarding this particular product and the model, and the one you've loaned to me, is how it even came with the ability for advancements futuristically. So many of these companies, what you buy is what you get, and it's locked in, and that's that. And you just look at any business model, like if Centropics really cared about money and it was all about profit for them versus actually providing the latest and greatest, then they wouldn't have this feature integrated into the mat, which is additional slots, allowing it for upgraded frequencies futuristically. So even with their groundbreaking ones that are integrating into it, they wouldn't have allotted that, because essentially they'll know, oh shoot,
we could sell that again later.
We could just sell it again.
But they left it open so that there are numerous banks within the wireless control panel, so that as they advance their understanding in the signal application again, maybe they find out that certain other frequency combinations can be more effective, or maybe maybe new parasites. The fact that you can and will be able to upgrade in whatever way they find necessary is a really important thing.
Could be stem cell growth. There's all sorts of things, frequency, from dating back to the Rife machine. It's a industry, and that's what I truly do believe that those elitists have. It's frequency based med beds,
absolutely,
that just cleanse, entirely cleanse.
Well, and I mean, I don't know if you have, or anybody that might be listening has ever done even just a sound bath. If you've ever experienced a sound bath, you probably will be able to recognize that frequency, whether it's with light, whether it's with sound, or whether it's with electromagnetism, all of these types of frequency have an effect on us, and they can heal us. So, people are probably familiar with the understanding and the knowledge now that they destroyed all the bells, because those were used in cathedrals with the sacred geometry of the cathedral and the frequency attunement of the bells.
You've watched some cool stuff that I've been diving into as of late, and it's just mind-blowing, because the evidence left from even prior civilizations, it was more. Yes,
they knew a lot more. They were a lot better off than we are now. Sorry to tell you guys that we don't live in the best age of ever.
They couldn't allow like tapping into the ether for electric energy, because there's free. Once that's out, it's free. That's not a controlled market. They had to. It's the same thing. Like, we have all the evidence about that gentleman that created not just a water engine, but a kit that could be installed to convert our gassers into efficient water engines. And what happens? This man gets suicide. Not even suicide. He gets poisoned. He runs out of a restaurant. I've been poisoned. It's all documented. He made national news with his engine right there. Lots of people saw it. It blows my mind as to how we accepted an unacceptable outcome, meaning this man dies, all his research dies with him, everything's gone. That wouldn't even be, think about it. If you really thought about this, our own government wouldn't allow that to go gone. That's such a revolution. That could put the United States in the most powerful position.
Pollution. What's pollution then?
Right. Yeah.
If they're really worried about pollution, why would they kill technology that allows hydrogen and oxygen to be used as the fuel source instead of burning so-called limited amount of so-called fossil fuels?
It's too freeing at that point. Ultimately, so the government had to be behind at least the cover-up, or the more than likely involved in not allowing this to get out. So it even dates back and shows how this has been infiltrated against God's children, and we as a people in this country, and anywhere that would have been globally revolutionary. But evil couldn't allow that level of freedom within us, because then, to your point, we would have broken out of that. Would have been too freeing. We could have broken out of what it took to keep a roof over our head and food on the table. We could have spent more time and energy into our spiritual and figuring out what we're here. We would have evolved from this mortal state, right?
To be more artistic, more spiritual, more all of the subtly nuanced aspects of human existence that become dumbed down and pushed down and damped down, because with all of those abilities, human beings are uncontrollable. We don't need to be controlled. We just need to be self-controlled.
I like that. Yeah, I think that's kind of a crock. A lot of people that are like, oh no, we're meant to be controlled. I'm like, that's just the diminished state we've been become, and to even voice something so ludicrous. It's like, no, naturally, we're just not even close. That just proves that we're nowhere near that normal functioning state. That we that should be just a baseline, that should be just a given,
you would think.
And then we could have, then at that point, so why even make such a derogatory comment that if you can't even state that till we're here? When we're here, if there's a few of us, but I venture to say it would be so minimal, because there would be so much opportunity. Life would be worth living. It would be beautiful and exciting. All this opportunity that people really would fall into their gifts, who they are, like adding value in a way we wouldn't even have a demonic controlled currency. We would be able to properly exchange value accordingly based on other value. And there might be a pilot that's bringing more value than a janitor, but a janitor still bringing value, right? Like, so there just could be exchange on value, a whole different restructuring of currency like we even know. The only backing to our current currency is the trust we're putting in it. That's it. But ultimately,
which is a pretty shallow thing when you really consider it.
Ryan, dude, you're great to chat with. We can obviously interact and like dive into a lot of things, and I look forward. We're nearing up 2 hours, so let's go ahead and wrap this one up. But I would look forward to doing more with you futuristically.
Absolutely. I'd love to come back. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to just share a little bit about my experience, share a little bit about some of the things that I've come to understand for myself. It's been a really humbling experience to understand and really acknowledge that, hey, all these things that I was sure that I knew, that I had so much conviction towards, stepping back and saying, I need to be willing to reassess my own position in many of these things has given me, that's a little bit scary. It's actually really scary for a time being. But on the other side of that is the freedom and is the understanding that, hey, now I've got a whole new set of things to learn, but I can take confidence that I'm not going to have to go through this again, because I'm basing what I believe in an understanding, not in what somebody else wants me to understand, but what my ability to discern from within myself, what that's telling me is should be, brought along with me in life.
That's very well said. Yeah, that just shows so much opportunity we all have. And thanks for leading by example. Thanks for showing up and, doing a live. Like, what a man, folks, willing to just show up, just do the live, have real honest discussion. We can't claim to be direct solutions to anything, but I know collectively we can make a difference. So folks, please get behind this episode, share it with the masses. If you're not following us on Rumble, follow us on Rumble. Let's get more people on free speech platforms. It's the only place we can actually really dive into this information. And I want to kind of fight back the urge. It is tough not to dive into all these other topics that are important. We really need to hone in on ultimately finding results, solutions, so we can get back to a normal place of function, acknowledge the sickness within us to, light that spark. It is so crucial. There's a reason why they're ramping up frequencies. There's a reason why they're ramping up the parts per million. We got a parts per million tester right here. How is it we as a people, especially here in Arizona, are accepting above the EPA's maximum contamination level? It's not even deemed humane to drink. And right here, I could get tap water. It's over 500 parts per million. We're supposed to be under 200 parts per million. What is in our water? What is in our water? And to not answer that, or even care, it saddens my heart, because that means, for those individuals, they're just willingly, in a sense, but technically unknowingly, really they're poisoning themselves, they're poisoning their children. It is having a dumbing down effect. It's no secret. Fluoride does lower IQ. So that just by the findings, that's why individuals don't care.
Right.
But because if you were like more normally functioning, you would care. You couldn't not care, especially for your family, loved ones, and children. So I look forward to more conversations futuristically.
Absolutely.
Let's build momentum together. Let's try knocking these sprays and these trails in our skies, and from there we'll build more and more momentum. Ryan,
thank you, sir. James, I appreciate your time. Appreciate what you do.
Thanks, brother. Trying. If any of you feel impressed and you want to actually turn this podcast into a solution where we can full-time go to war on your behalf, because I know it's not realistic. They're squeezing us in such a way that we can't all drop our jobs and focus on these things. Well, I'm willing to do it, but frankly, I don't have the financing or funds to really gain momentum. And I want to bring the value to you all to actually create these solutions. Like, consider donating to the Unmuzzled chat. Frick, even to continue on the path at the level I have been, frankly, I need more funds because I'm going in debt over this adventure. Just being realistic. And I don't want to switch gears, but I'll do what I got to do. If it's another means, another avenue to get tapped into.
We need some support. And if, you know, anybody that can understand how important it is to all of us, if we all just do a little bit, many hands make light work.
I like that. With that, folks, may our loving Creator bless you. And until next time, take care.